What white people have to do is try and find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have an N word in the first place. Because I'm not an N word, I'm a man. But if you think I'm one, it means you need it. James Baldwin. What's up, y'all? It's Mr. Ernest Crim III, and I am the host of the Crim's Class podcast. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I'm an Emmy-nominated producer and public teacher who uses Black history and overlooked histories to empower, to educate, and to create equitable systems. And in today's episode, y'all, we'll be talking with Brook Williams. And what's going to be very powerful about this episode is he's going to detail to you all how an experience he had could have had him end up like our brother Nolan Wells, involving an incident of racial abuse at Aurora University in Illinois. But before we get there, y'all, I got to give you the objective. So by the end of this podcast, listeners will gain a deeper understanding of Brook Williams' experience, the psychological consequences of hostile learning environments, and practical strategies for parents, educators, coaches, and students to cultivate belonging, advocate effectively, and respond to racial discrimination with knowledge, courage, and community. And with that said, we got my brother here today, Brook. Bruh, how we feeling, man? On a scale from 1 to 10, where you at?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. Just blessed to be alive.
Awesome, man. Well, look, first off, before we even get to your story, I want people to understand that how we even met. And this is important to me because this is an example of how community works, right? Initially, I wasn't aware of your story and what happened at Aurora University and where you were racially harassed and abused by your teammates. But I became aware of this story because of a mutual friend that we have. And shout out to our brother, Aaron Same. He hit me up. He shared a Facebook post that your mom made. And he'd say, like, look, yo, Crim, can you contact this family? I think you can help them out. And beyond that, shout out to your mom, shout out to your dad, because they did so much to get your story out there. And I think that's important to acknowledge. Because one of the things we have to take away from this is when we have situations like this where our children are being attacked or racially assaulted, we have to be their biggest advocates. And that's exactly what your mom, exactly what your dad did. And then Aaron Sane, of course, built that bridge. So I want to give a big kudos to them. Before we dig deeper, though, into what happened in your situation, because in many ways, this will be an update. Some of you all might be familiar with Brook's story from following my previous Instagram page. Your story made its rounds, not just locally, but it made its rounds across the country, which was the reason you were able to transfer to another school. And again, what is really deep to me about your story, you know, almost a year later, is when we come across so many instances now where young Black boys your same age, young college students, you know, Nolan Wells, of course, is the most prominent name. I think of the fact that if you did not advocate for yourself in this instant, then, you know, your story could have been similar to his. So with that said, y'all, before we move forward, I want to roll a clip because you had an interview with ABC 7 about a year ago with our mutual friend again, Jasmine Miner. So let's go ahead and check that out real quick.
From his first visit to campus, Brooklyn Williams says he knew then the Aurora University football team was the dream he worked his entire life for.
I was so stuck on Aurora and like the picture they painted of the brotherhood.
But he says the reality was different.
Another teammate I had of mine came in and was like, "What are you doing sleeping here? Don't you guys sleep in trees?" In that moment, I knew it clicked that he was calling me a monkey.
That was one of the racial comments Williams says some of his white teammates made to him the night of August 21st. He says he was staying at his teammate's house to save him time commuting from school to back home.
One of my teammates had called me the N-word and was like, "You better not go in my room."
He says it escalated from racial slurs to a comment referencing George Floyd.
You took that as a threat towards you?
Yes, for my safety, because I was the only Black male in that household at the time.
In the school's investigative report viewed by ABC 7, Williams told investigators that another player present at the time told him that on the team, quote, "some of the guys are racist." The school's findings say there is no evidence that the complainant had any motivation to fabricate the allegations, and it is clear something significant happened.
For the first time in my life, I felt like I could not protect my child. And I've never had that feeling before.
In a statement from the school to ABC7, a spokesperson says Aurora University is deeply committed to fostering a safe, respectful, and inclusive community where every student feels valued and supported. We take any allegations of misconduct extremely seriously. They went on to say the university follows established policies and procedures when reviewing and evaluating reports such as these to ensure an expeditious and thorough review. Every report is carefully reviewed and investigated in accordance with these policies. An appropriate and responsive action is taken whenever policy violations are found. The school's report showed that the conduct is found to constitute hostile environment harassment based on race, but they would not confirm if any action was taken towards the accused students. Williams made the decision to leave the team and the school, never playing in one game.
You wrote a letter to the school. It said, "I've never experienced anything so painful. It has also cost me my education, my football career, and the opportunities I worked for."
Sometimes at night, just laying in the bed, like, ask myself, am I enough? Like, did I deserve this?
These boys, they're living their American dream. While he's stuck, sad, afraid, hurt, doesn't know his next move.
No one should have to experience this. And sadly, it will continue to keep happening and happening. So that's why us as the Black community has to keep speaking up about this.
The Williams family says they plan to take legal action against the school in the coming weeks.
All right, so Brooke, almost a year later, when you revisit that story and you hear yourself talk about it and you think about where you are now as a student, who some folks listening to this might not realize, going into your second year of college, you're going to Morehouse now at HBCU. How do you process all of that?
Honestly, man, it was crazy. It was hectic. Like, just starting off fresh in a new environment, new friends, new people to interact with. So much to say the least, it was great, man, honestly.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit because, you said a few things there too that could have been particularly triggering to people listening to this. And I know for myself, having experienced the hate crime, and oftentimes when I speak to audiences about it, like, and I'll play the actual clip of what happened, and it often takes me back to that moment, and you start to reflect a lot on just any unresolved pain you have from that moment. You think differently too about maybe how you could have responded or should have responded. You said something though that was, very, I think, deep in that moment too, that I can connect to. You said you've never experienced something so painful. That's often how I feel too when I think about my experience. You said the references to being a monkey in trees, the references to George Floyd, being called the N-word. Take us back to that moment. So you are a freshman at this point in time on the football team at Aurora University. Haven't even had an opportunity to play your first game yet, and you walk into this environment at a teammate's house, right?
Yeah.
So briefly tell us that story again, and also too, like, had you ever experienced anything like that from the team priorly?
Not at all. In the summer, we had some catches and stuff. Like, me and a couple of the guys, we would go to the field, and I would come back to the house, and we would just chill. It would be normal. Me and a couple of guys from high school, we all went there, and vibe was normal. And then suddenly, as soon as I get in here, it just switched. Like, they're just completely different people. I don't even recognize them anymore, man.
Okay, so how many interactions would you say that you had with these former teammates of yours before that incident happened?
At least 5.
And you had no type of experience, there was no type of interaction where you felt that could have been possible from them?
Not at all. Like, if you're gonna invite me to your house, it should be opening and welcoming. I didn't feel none of that that last time I went there.
So, okay, now walk us through this moment. So you didn't have any prior interactions with them that were bad, hostile, negative, or racist. And this particular night, this was following a football practice, right? And
Yes,
you
sir.
decided that you wanted to stay nearby on campus instead of commuting back to your home.
So yeah, I had texted a teammate that lived in the house, and he said, "Of course, man. Anytime, like it's always welcome. Doors always open." And I had texted him prior too, because it was like a really bad storm that hit Aurora during camp, and asked him if I could stay, and he didn't respond. But he had ended up texting later, like, "Come on, like it's all welcome." So then this particular time, I had a bipod at like 5 in the morning, and I texted him like a couple days before, like, "Hey, can I stay tonight? I got an early morning bipod. I don't want to commute."
Wait, pause real quick. What's a bipod? Because we don't know that. Like, if we ain't playing college football, we don't know what you're talking about.
Bipod, it basically like scans your body to fat ratio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I had a bipod at like 5:30 in the morning. Instead of me getting up at 4 to drive and then go to sit the bipod and then come back home, I just asked him if I could stay the night. He was like, "Yeah, man, of course." So then after that practice that one day, I'm guessing he didn't tell the others, but I get to the house, they're like, "Bro, why are you here?" And then that's where all the racial slurs and the harassment happened.
So as soon as you showed up, these teammates of yours, these are all white dudes, right, in the house. About how many of them was it?
About 5.
About 5. Okay, so you walking into in a house, 5. I'm assuming, like, what are like these? We talking lineman type or?
Lineman type.
Yeah,
I'm talking about 6 feet plus.
6 feet plus, big dudes, and this is like nighttime or what?
It's getting dark, yeah.
In dark. And as soon as you walk in,
I didn't even get to walk in, brother. I got out my car. They're getting out their car at the same time, bro. Why are you here?
mm. So about how long were you there before you decided, like, yo, I gotta get out of here?
I said no more than 30 minutes.
No more than 30 minutes.
Yeah. Because at first I didn't really feel comfortable enough. Like I didn't have the strength to just get up and walk away and not care what they said or what they told the team or whatever. But like after a certain point, I couldn't take it no more.
Yeah. And as this is happening, are you like, you know what I'm saying, are you like in the living room area? Are we in like a, kitchen? How was I want people to be able to visualize this. So are they standing up? You sitting down? What's happening?
Nah, most of us are in the living room though. We're all sitting on the couch. Some of them I think was on their phone, just talking about practice football stuff mostly.
And we're clear too that they did so they called you the N-word. They made reference to monkey sleeping in trees. They made reference to George Floyd. Yeah. And I think that what's important for people listening to understand, and this is something that you identified, even beyond them calling you the N-word, you knew for certain that this was violent language. Like sometimes our kids don't even understand how a reference to a monkey in our community has been used racially throughout our history. We have been compared to that. We have been viewed in this country as being inferior and subhuman. And that has been a way that people, so-called scientists in American history, have degraded us and dehumanized us, right? And I think it's always interesting. We have to, a couple things we have to always take note of is how do these racist beliefs and thought patterns, right, get passed down generationally? You know what I'm saying? Because we have to be aware and alert for all the parents listening on how nobody has to call you an N-word for you to understand that this is racist, demeaning, and violent language. And if you don't react with haste in that moment, that's something that could elevate to something more dangerous. Because, like, George Floyd, I still to this day have never voluntarily watched what happened. I know what happened, right? The brother it won't be categorized this way, but he was lynched. So if somebody is calling us that, then to me, the only thing I can assume is that your next plan of action is to be violent with me, which is why for me, and I've been posting this online, and I think it's very important for us to understand, black folks, but anybody, like that's not something you joke about. For me, I can still never get over the fact that we had a roast of one of our most prominent comedians, Kevin Hart, and there was a joke, alleged joke, talking about George Floyd's lynching as if he was rotting in hell looking up at us, right? Like these are cases that are still happening. So when somebody jokes about that, what I always tell folks is the number one form of entertainment in American history during enslavement and during the Jim Crow era was minstrel shows. White people dressing up in blackface, and sometimes black folks, as well, to make money, to demean themselves. that made a mockery of who we are. So, but at the same time, simultaneously, we're being lynched, we're being enslaved, we're being hung from trees, we're being abused. So if someone can make a mockery of your very existence and make people laugh at the abuse you are inflicted with, then when it actually happens, they don't think it's a big deal. I used to tell my BSU students, like, they'll portray you as a dog, kill you like a dog. Nobody think anything different of it, you know? So you deciding at that point in time, 30 minutes is more than enough, is important. We have to know when we are in situations that don't feel right, don't feel safe, that it is time to move expeditiously. Trust that instinct, right?
Mhm.
So when you decided that you were going to leave at that point in time, was there any response by the 5 teammates at that point?
No, not one.
So they let you leave willingly?
Yeah,
Okay. And that may have been what they wanted to do,
yeah,
right?
that's what I'm assuming.
How do you process the fact that somebody in your age range, right? We're talking between 18, 21 or something like that, can look at you. And these are people who weren't alive when there was Jim Crow segregation. They weren't alive when there was slavery and all these different things happening, but they still could hold some type of ill will. How do you process that while not also believing what they say about you?
Honestly, it's hard to do it, but you just gotta know who you are and what you stand on and what you believe in. Like if you know you're a standout guy, you do everything to the best of your ability. You just can't believe it. Like you gotta know who you are.
I think that's important because I want people to also understand that, we're talking to not just, a college football player, but we're talking to a scholar. And I think that's always the most important thing to position about our young folks, man, because, student athlete for a reason, right? Scholar, athlete, you are majoring in, correct me if I'm wrong again, you applied physics, right?
Yes, sir.
In engineering?
Yeah, it's engineer.
Okay. And you want to be a mechanical engineer.
Yes, sir.
Right. So like that's the important thing to understand about who we're talking to right now. This is a young man who's driven. This is a young man with a goal and a mission who went there because he wanted to graduate and also to play college football and wanted to have his education paid for. Most times people don't come across a brilliant young man like you until there's a story of trauma like this, right? We don't see the regular stories of you graduating at the top of your class. You think you had like a 4 point something in high school, bro?
Yeah, I had a 4.5.
Bro had a 4.5. Like, bro, come on. How is that even, you know what I'm saying? How's that even possible, right? So you had a 4.5, graduated from high school. This we talking about it. And our kids are often made to believe that, you know what I'm saying, that we're not good in math, not good in science. That's all you taking. I hope you get an opportunity to take a Black history class, you know what I'm saying? But you're doing all the things that they say we ain't good at, right? But at the same time, with you just wanting to be a regular kid, there's an attempt to bring you down. And so when I talk to folks, man, especially young people, I always want to make sure we understand that there are two forms of justice we want to look for in situations like this, right?
Mhm.
So one form is the most obvious. When you are disrespected in a situation like that, you want that person to receive a consequence for those actions, right? This was a deliberate action. This wasn't like, oh, they were young kids and they just repeated something or whatever. Like, no,
They
this
didn't
was
know no better.
yeah. They knew what they were doing and it was intentional. So the first form of justice is, well, whatever entity that's above them should hold them accountable. This wasn't just happening at a friend's house. This happened under an institution. We want the school to do something, right? We want the administrators, the coach to do something. But even beyond that, another form of justice that is separate from them is internal justice. So what I mean is, what does healing look like if we don't get the results from the entity we go to, right? Because even if they punish the student, even if you got a settlement or something like that, you still carry the wound, the battle scar. Like I said, 10 years ago, I dealt with a hate crime in 2016. I went through the case. The person, we got her arrested. She served jail time. but it's still like I have to live with it and I have to figure out how I'm going to use it. Is it going to tear me down, or am I going to use it proactively to educate, to help, right? So I want everybody listening and you as well to continue to consider that, because there will be a time when you're going to be looking back on this 10 years later, right?
Mhm.
You're going to be well into your career, doing very well for yourself, and that's going to be something that's still a part of you. So the question is, again, how do we heal from it? How do we work through the process of healing? But I think more importantly is, how do we use it to help other people? You know? So before we get to what you and your family have been doing to hold the university accountable, I wanted to ask you, how have you been processing this? Because in that interview with ABC and Jasmine Miner, you did say, right, like there are some days where you would be thinking like, man, like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I enough? How have you worked through that as to not internalize that racism?
It's crazy. I give all the glory to obviously God, but I give some more glory to my mom and my dad. I mean, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have never gotten therapy. I think therapy is like a big part of how I'm not coping with it, how I'm elevating myself. And like I said, my mom, my dad, they put me in therapy. I never believed in it. I feel like in the Black community, we don't teach our kids that therapy's good. Keep the problems in the house, but it's not the case. You should be able to talk to somebody, and it could be your parents. But for me personally, I suggest to go to a therapist. And my therapist she's great. I mean, she gets me through a lot, and even with not even just my personal stuff as I go through, even with the football stuff, she helps me with. So like, shout out to her. Shout out to my parents.
I'm glad you said that, man, because I think that's what all of us need to hear. I'm of the belief that everybody in America needs therapy. The things we have gone through presently, the things that we have survived, there's a lot of trauma on this land we live on, you know.
Mhm.
Our experience alone collectively, you know, the indigenous experience. Like, I mean, everybody, every group of people who have come here have experienced some level of trauma. But we know personally with ours, it's a whole different type of experience, because we understand too that it has not ceased. It continues to happen. You know, we are continually reminded of these things with situations like that, whether it be verbal abuse or actual violence. So for anybody out here listening that can relate to that, even if you think you good, therapy is a must. Because what I also like about what you said is, you can talk to your parents, and you want to have somebody you can go to blow off some steam real quick. But the benefit of therapy is you're going to have somebody that don't know you, and they just going to listen from a, you know, as neutral a perspective as they can, and provide solid sound feedback. And sometimes when we talk to people who know us personally, they might not be able to genuinely tell us what we need to hear, because they love us so much, you know?
Mhm.
And not that the therapist is like not caring, but they gonna tell you up front, like, Brooke, yo, Ernest, like, this is what you're feeling and this is what you need to do. That was one of the first things I had to do when I dealt with my situation. But I didn't realize it immediately, because like you said, I didn't grow up in a household where that was talked about, where we did that. I would say millennials, Gen Z are part of the first generation where we are saying, no, we're gonna go see a therapist, and there ain't nothing wrong with that, right? You pray about it, you should pray, but sometimes the revelation is, I need to talk to somebody. And kudos again to your family, and also too, bro, it's a privilege to be able to even do that, you know. And at a young age, you are setting a standard. So I want you to realize too, man, that all of these situations that you go through are literally just building a foundation that you will be able to speak from, preach from, and build and edify others. If you got through it, then you can help somebody else, because you ain't the first young Black man that's dealt with something like this. Unfortunately, you won't be the last. But what I've learned is, I can't prevent what another person does to me, but I can prepare. I can be proactive with it, because one of the worst things when you deal with a situation like that is to believe, right?
Mhm.
Always, when I talk to young Black folks or people of color, I say, well, look, y'all, what she did to me was horrible. What they said to you was horrible. But even worse than that is believing what they said. So you call me that, you treat me this way, you refer to me as this. But the minute that internalization becomes a fact of my life and actualization, then you got me twice. what we have to remember is, like I said with the James Baldwin quote when we started off, that's more of a reflection of how that person feels about themselves, right? We gonna go back to grade school with this, right? It's the comeback of, I know you are, but what am I? Literally, if you have all of that to give me out of nowhere, bro, we supposed to be teammates. Like, what's really wrong with you? You know, I know we often say this a lot, but some folks need prayer. Some folks need a little bit more than that, you know what I'm saying? But on a baseline level, I pray that these folks get through the trauma that had, or the inherited trauma that has led them to even be in a place where they feel comfortable saying that to another human being. Again, like James Baldwin said, like, yo, I'm not that N-word, I'm a man. But if you think I am, it's because you need it. If you can only feel good or high about yourself and high and mighty when you standing on the back of somebody else and you are really feeble-minded, you are really insecure, you know? So as you continue to work through this, I want you to remember, like, when you become an engineer, you can always have, you know what I'm saying, an organization on the side, right? Nonprofit on the side, right? Where you mentor young folks and you help elevate them in any way you can to teach from your experience. That's what we have to do, because the only way this condition gets better is if we have more people come together who have survived it, made it through, to say, this is who you truly are. So I need you to truly understand, bro, because when we talk about the justice part, therapy is a must, but then also too, what's the conversation we having when we by ourselves, right? You're a brilliant dude, man. You're amazing, right? Whether you play a down of football in college or not, you are brilliant, not because of what you've done on the football field, not even because of your 4.5 in high school or what you're gonna do now. You're brilliant just because you're here. Like you come from the creator. You were created with intention and purpose, right? And there's no man, no person that can pull that away because of how insecure they feel about themselves. So we have to be able to affirm ourselves. It's you know, sometimes, 'cause I got 4 girls, man, and they like to dress up and they say, Daddy, you like this? Daddy, you like I got my hair done, Daddy? Like, and I say, yeah, I like it, but like, do you like it? You know what I'm saying? And I started doing that because I don't want them to be so obsessed with how other people feel about what they decided to do. So it feels good to be affirmed. I love it, right? But when everybody's gone, the ABC's gone, I'm gone, and you staring at the mirror or you laying down at night, you got to be able to say, I'm a cold brother. Just because I was fearfully and wonderfully made this way, as it says in the Bible, right? Like, this is who I am, and can't nobody take that away. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to live out my purpose, because you already got something in you, and you just trying to, college is a tough time, man. I can't imagine coming forward with something like this, right? This 20 years ago when I was in your position, I was just figuring this thing out. So even the person you are now, and the revelations and insight you have now, by the time you're 21, 25, it could be completely different. You going in for physics, you might say, I want to get a PhD in something. You might say, I want to get an MD. You might want to be a teacher, you know? So keep all of that. And for me, like, the affirmation is one of the most important things, because it says, regardless of what you say, this is like a counterpunch to y'all and to the negativity. So therapy is important. Affirming is important. I mean, you look in the studio right now, seeing evidence of people who have fought back is important, bro. Like, one of my most recent episodes, I got a chance to talk to one of Malcolm X's daughters, Dr. Ilyasha Shabazz. And for me, like, Malcolm is that dude for me, right? But beyond just what he represented historically, he gave me a lot of courage. The way he talked then, like, in that environment, like, it's nothing for us now, right? So I'm gonna recommend too, like, in addition to therapy and affirming yourself, reading books from great people in our past who have made it through far worse, because you being able to fight through this and get a platform to do it is proof that what they did was successful. Because you understand that 60 years ago, what you went through would have just been another day in America. So I'm thinking, like, brother, like, autobiography of Malcolm X, you know what I'm saying? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I already gave you my book.
Yes, sir.
Okay, make sure you read that. anything by James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time. You know what I'm saying? Like any great athlete that you admire, see if they have an autobiography or something. Because I mean, Kaepernick, bro, like Kaepernick is somebody like I'm cool with his circle. Kaepernick is a brilliant dude, man. If you ever have an opportunity to just watch some of his interviews and maybe even hear him go see him speak and things like that, and he has a couple books out too. I say that because this is a brother who 10 years ago had to make a decision. And he stood up, even though he didn't deal with it personally. He didn't, not that we know of at that point in time, right? He said, I'm about to stand up for black people, people of color, all oppressed people, by taking a knee silently. And he lost everything for it. Like he was one of the top quarterbacks, right? But he is where he is now, not because of the football skill, but because of the intellect he cultivated. So even beyond what you do on the field or what you will accomplish, what you put up here during this time is going to last a lot longer. You're going to be at a point, man, you're going to say, not that that was a great thing that happened, but the great thing about it was I was able to use it to benefit and help other people. So now what I want to get to is, how did you transfer to Morehouse?
The head coach, he had reached out through, I think it was one of the news clips. He had said I got a spot for him on my team at Morehouse.
It was just that simple.
Yes, sir.
And that's why, HBCUs and community is so important. They saw the story, and in my mind, when I was posting even the clip we did, I was like, man, I'm going to have to find people to reach out to. This was a natural community thing. So shout out to that brother who reached out to you. Shout out to everybody who lended support. So you were able to then transfer the second semester of your freshman year to Morehouse. Now, the next question then is, why didn't you stay at Aurora University? Did they handle this appropriately, in your opinion?
Not at all.
Why is that?
The kids, they just got slapped on the wrist. They didn't really have to do nothing. They're able to play this season. They're able to participate in the spring ball. Like, it's just.
How did the coach of the team respond then?
Horrible. Like, as a head coach, you're supposed to be a leader, and he ain't lead. I mean, some of the stuff I was hearing from some of the guys that still go there is just crazy. He didn't want to talk to the team. He talked to the team finally. Like, it was just a lot. The school didn't handle it well. It was horrible.
So you feel like all levels kind of dropped the ball. And if I remember from our prior interaction, I think it appeared to you that he was making more excuses than anything, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And that goes all the way to the highest levels of the university that got involved with this.
I mean, we had a meeting, and the coach and then somebody higher up who was dealing with the situation, he was just like, he kept bringing up David in the Bible. I mean, we love the Bible, but, like, you can't keep bringing up the Bible in this situation. That don't have nothing. That don't correlate at all.
Come on, man.
Like, come on.
So he was attempting to use the Bible as justification for you to just deal with the racial abuse you faced that day.
Yes.
See, and that's the thing, we like, just like I said, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? And just like somebody like Harriet Tubman can use the example of Moses to fight back, there will be people who will use this religious text to make you passive, to make you accept your abuse. And that's something that we should never agree to, And I'm glad that you rejected that, because these aren't people acting in good faith and goodwill. In their mind, that's not an issue, but the best vehicle to communicate that is to make you believe that there's some type of spiritual reason that's ordained by God that you should suffer and just continue to deal with that. And our ancestors are proof that that's never been the type of God that we pray to through the Bible or otherwise, right? So I wonder what church he goes to.
Man, I tell you, before he even came out, like, we told him that, like, it was not that it had happened, but, like, well, yeah, I guess I could say that it had happened. He was just like, oh, you should forgive them. Man, you didn't even hear my side of the story yet.
Like, they ain't even say sorry. You talking about forgiving them.
I know they come from good people. Their parents are good people. What? Did you not just, man?
Yeah. No, that's insulting, man. That's insulting. again, reflecting on my experience when it first went viral. No, after it went viral and we got her arrested, that's when it became real for a lot of people because I don't think she thought we was gonna take it that far, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after she got arrested and people were contacting her, I remember there was like a conservative local talk radio station that interviewed her and they interviewed us or me and they said, hey man, like, you know, do you forgive her? And I'm thinking like, why is that the first thing y'all want to know from me? Like, why is that? Why are we always the ones expected to be the bigger person? You know, like, sorry to me don't mean nothing because I want justice. That to me, justice is sorry. Justice is the apology. And the perpetrators are a part of that. So if you want to say sorry to me, if you want me to accept your apology, then go through that process that leads to justice. But oftentimes what that means to people is they want you to let it go, sweep it under the rug. And it's not to say spend your whole life being vengeful or angry. It's to say, no, you did me wrong and this should happen after. Because we don't ever want to hold on to that spite for as long as maybe they expect us to, because that can deteriorate us too. But on the contrary, we also, like I was saying previously, use that as a learning experience to light a fuel, to light your fire, to motivate you to continue to do this. Because if it can happen to you, this is what I felt. If it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. Because in both situations, what are we doing? We just minding our business, right? You just trying to play football. Me and my wife went out to a day party in Chicago. We just trying to mind our business. We ain't go looking for nobody to attack us. You know what I'm saying? So don't ever let anybody, you know, and I'm not saying it's like as if you didn't because you did, but I'm even saying moving forward, don't ever let anybody try to demean you in that way, in that capacity, you know? I don't even think I have to ask this question, but like I'm sure they didn't lend an apology, right?
Oh, not at all. But that's even though they didn't give me an apology, I think. Well, I know I forgive them in my heart wholeheartedly, but I think that comes from not only from I have to, like I'm trying to elevate my life, but in order for me to heal and properly heal, I was talking to my therapist about this. She said, in order to properly heal, you need to forgive them. Not saying that you have to, but I mean, I forgave them. Like, even though they meant it and it might happen again, I can't do nothing about that. I gotta live
Right.
my life for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a balancing act you have to play because you can't you have to figure out a way to move forward while also looking back. So this is the principle of saying kofa, right? You move forward while looking back, but not staying stuck there. You use it as an opportunity to how can I be the alchemist? How can I use this proactively and constructively, not just for myself but for others, you know? And then again, that might again be a situation where you say, well, how can I mentor somebody? Because there are young folks going through the same situation in high school, college, right? Anything you've made it through is an opportunity for you to teach somebody about. You could teach somebody how to get a college scholarship in football, right? You could teach somebody how to be a scholar. You could teach somebody how to persevere through difficult situations like this. And that is a very mature thing for you to even do, right? Because if you spend your whole life simply thinking about them as opposed to thinking about what the entire case represents, and you get stuck. And mentally, that can become a big issue, right? So the school didn't handle it correctly. So now you are going into your sophomore year at Morehouse. This would be your first full year at Morehouse. How has everything been going since you made that transfer?
I love it, man. From the people, like the people down there, they even just nicer. I walked into Walmart before I even moved into my dorm, just getting some stuff I need, like toiletries, stuff like that. And people just smiling, like it's a whole different environment. I honestly love it. And not only that, I'm surrounded by black excellence every single day that I wake up. Don't matter if I'm on the football field, I'm in the cafeteria with the lunch ladies, everyone. I mean, it's just
Yeah. You got some of that Southern
it's
hospitality.
powerful,
Yeah.
man.
Was that your first time in Atlanta?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, wow. So your first time in Atlanta, especially coming from something like that, and you go to Morehouse, like you understand the lineage. You know what I'm saying? But you talking that's That's Dr. King right there, right? Morehouse man, bro, like Morehouse man, Cole. Shout out to all our Morehouse brothers listening right now, man. Morehouse is a powerful institution. Of course, that whole like university entity with Spelman College, and we got Clark Atlanta, right? So you are immersed all in that, right? So one of the things too, man, when we talk about healing, affirming is powerful, right? Therapy, of course, absolutely necessary. Seeing yourself positively is necessary, but being immersed in a community like that is healing. And one of the things I always say about therapy is I think it's powerful, but it's also an individualistic solution to a community problem, especially if we're talking about dealing with issues of racism, right? But what you're doing that's powerful is you're seeing the therapist, but then you're also immersed in an enriching and encouraging community. Because when you in Atlanta and then you at a HBCU, like you surround everybody, they look like you, but everybody's driven, everybody's motivated, right? That circle of excellence, that network that you have now, bro, is gonna pay off so much moving forward. And then when you graduate, the consideration of do you want to come back home or do you want to live there, right?
I feel like honestly too, as not only as parents, but as like even people we look up to, they should be more open and teach us about these things. Cause I got some people my age, maybe a little bit older, they look at HBCUs as a party school or like to get all the girls. They don't really look at it as in the right way, I think. And I think you don't understand that honestly until you in that environment.
Mm, I like that. I'm glad you said that too. Clarifying that, man, is yeah, no, and we got to understand that when we sending our kids to HBCUs, man, we sending our kids to prestigious universities that have a history of providing and cultivating spaces for our children, bringing them up in strong environments, strong communities as well. I got some people in my family graduate from like Tougaloo, college and Jackson State University, for example. We sent some students away to different HBCUs when I was teaching, so it's powerful, man. So what does life look like for Brooke moving forward then, considering the experience you had, considering where you are now, what does justice then look like regarding this case and just for yourself?
Justice, I feel like they should be off the team 100%. School should take more accountability. The coach should be fired. Still kind of hard to wrap my head around, it, even though it's been some time now. But
For sure, I understand. Is there anything that you would say to a young person, let's say maybe a few years younger, getting ready to go to school, go to college, and there's a potential that they could deal with something like this, right? Like what words of advice? Because again, just like we started off this podcast, I want people to truly understand that unfortunately we don't often pay attention to these cases until unfortunately it becomes like a Nolan Wells or whatever, or with you when you're at a situation where it could have potentially turned violent. And I even wondered too, man, like if you stayed and it turned violent, what does the university say, right? Like, do we see something at Aurora like we're seeing in Mississippi? Feels like a cover up. Where is a cover up? Where they continue to make excuses for these kids and what they did, right? So, what do you say then to a young black boy, a few years younger than you, that could potentially be in a similar situation?
every day gonna be hard. Every day not gonna be easy. But I mean, you gotta get up and try. Not only as a black male, you got a target on your back, but stuff that we go through mentally. Honestly, man, it's not a joke. Mental health is real, and I didn't understand that growing up as a kid. But I mean, me going to my therapist and her talking to me about it, it's helped me realize that mental health is real, depression is real, anxiety, all that is real. As a young black man, you gotta talk to God. Honestly, talk to God. Find yourself within, and you gotta know who you are. Honestly, I mean, man, for me, I'm not gonna say every day's been a breeze, but I had my hard times. But talking to my therapist, talking to God, And another big one that people don't talk about is having a community around you. Not just the Black community, but like you have to have that group of people, like your grandparents, friends, older siblings, even people you look up to. Like that really helps, honestly.
Mm, that's powerful. I love that, man. So what I'm gonna tell people at the end of every episode, because this is a classroom setting, I give people life work, right? So we don't call it homework. So based on things you've shared, based on my own insight, I give people life work to do moving forward because this is something that should be a part of their daily routine. And I'm gonna just reiterate what we already talked about. Um, Everybody needs therapy in this country. We also understand that it's not accessible to everybody, right? It's very difficult to get access. So, but I also understand that there are organizations out there providing affordable um, and sometimes free therapy. Please, if you need help, please. No amount of research, history book reading can counter that professional help. At the same time, beyond that, this is a lifelong process. You know, even with me, I never realized that I would still be doing this and still be inspired to do this because there's so much I don't know. So after you do that, especially for our Black children, you have to definitely be reading up on our historical figures that have gone through something similar so that you can see your place in history and see what they did to fight through, right? And we'll also see through that these things happen in cycles. So we got to be reading Malcolm X. We got to read James Baldwin, who I quoted at the beginning. Let's read some Toni Morrison. We have to make this a part of our daily routine. And this is particularly important in this generation, man, because we are obsessed and addicted to these phones. Speaking for myself too, it's hard to put them down. They design them in a way to keep us endlessly scrolling, right? That's how they make their money. They keep us on there. They get the ad money, all of that. But what it's doing to us is harmful because it's not like we're being fed a bunch of positivity. Handling your story is enough, bro. But then if you go down a rabbit hole of constantly being fed other people who are dealing with the same thing without any like solution provided, it can make you feel helpless, you know? So, and I say that because when we read, we want to pull ourselves away from the phone to give ourselves a moment of silence and peace to reflect and to think. So therapy is important. Reading about our historical figures is important. But then also too, like you said, finding a strong community where you can feel accepted, where you can be yourself, where you can express yourself, and most importantly, where you can be uplifted. Those are some of the most important things we can give our kids. And also, in addition to that, please, please remember to affirm our babies. Affirm yourself. I'm almost 40, bruh. I still got to do it. And it's not just me simply speaking it. Sometimes it's got to be the music. Everything, brother. So, with that said, I'm going to close this class the same way I started it. What white people have to do is try and find out in their own heads why it was necessary to have an N-word in the first place. Because I'm not an N-word. I'm a man. But if you think I'm one, it means you need it. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll see you next time in class.